reached out to Gang of Seven. 3 of them got back to me this morning. Everybody else is probably either traveling or doing stuff, getting ready for the draft. But I asked them about if they felt like that the Cowboys got worked on the Amari Cooper trade. Just because I was curious. Everybody seems to think, we're all talking about it, you know, they could have done this, could have done that. And I was always curious of guys who are kind of in the know about these things, you know, because they're the ones that are living it. They're the ones that are making the trades and doing all the things necessary to try and get these players. So I'll read to you the comments that my guys had here so far.
And this was on the Amari Cooper trade.
This was on the Amari Cooper trade. He said, hang on here, said, real quick here. Okay, my number one guy. They got worked because everybody knew they were going to cut him. They should have controlled the pre-trade narrative better. The fact that he only had 1 year left obviously dictated compensation being low as well, and the amount of cap needed for a 1 year deal was problematic. Nobody was going to sign him to a brand new deal like these other last 2 traded players, which is justifiable compensation, in his opinion, for the 2 players that just went, Adams and Hill. He says, I also think there are flaws in his intangibles that others were questioning. Whether true or not, perception matters. That hurts his value as well.
Okay, you said that's your number one guy?
That's what the first guy that got back.
Okay, I was wondering if you had your Gang of Seven ranked.
Yeah, well, yeah, no. Yeah, no, it's a good
number
question.
1 on the list, number 2, number 3. I value number 1 more than I do number 3, but here's number 2 right here on the list.
Yeah, sometimes like number 1 guy throws some serious fire at him, you know, and then I get other guys that are not so chatty, but they'll tell you. One of my other guys said this. He said yes and no. He said yes because they only got a 5th, but no because everybody knew he was going to get traded for little or released because Dallas couldn't keep him. So it was good that they got something for him.
Yeah, you know, I guess their play should have been, if you don't give us something legit, we're just going to release Michael Gallup. You know, you could have played it to create leverage a little bit more, but it became obvious, and KG has been consistent the entire way through saying you tipped your hand. Everybody knew what you were going to do. That's why you couldn't get any value.
Like, you telegraphed this from a mile away. If they had kept their mouths shut and tried to figure out a way to move in silence with this trade, we knew for months that this was going to be what was going to eventually come down. And for them to only basically get a 5th-round pick out of it, they deserved what they got based on the way that they operated and how they thought people would view him around the league. And you got what you deserved based on how you operated business-wise.
He finished up the conversation here with a lot of good vets got released instead of traded for this year because teams just knew they were eventually going to get released and didn't need to necessarily trade for them. So people are thinking that, you know, maybe that, like, you know, the Lyle Collins situation. Yeah. You know, Lyle Collins, it sounded like, you know, we had talked about it here on our show a bunch, how things fractured with him. Maybe it was the thing, it was personal. You know, Joe Philbin really didn't like him, the missed drug tests, all that stuff. I mean, these were things we all talked about. Same thing that teams are talking about. So they're thinking, well, the Cowboys are going to make it personal, just going to move on.
I think I find it very interesting that that's the road that we look at Lyle Collins, Amari Cooper, that we're turning things into personal matters when it comes to these players relative to the talent or whatever they may have left as a player on the field. Because I have a very difficult time thinking that you look at a player like an Amari Cooper, who is as smart as he is, as a cerebral player as he is, and what he brings to you on the field, that you looked at him and said, hey, we don't necessarily like the intangibles that he's bringing, maybe because he's a quiet guy, doesn't say much, isn't necessarily your typical diva wide receiver, because from all accounts, he's only missed 7 starts in his career as a player. Even though he may not necessarily practice all that much, he's a gamer and is out there ready to play every single day, plays hurt, plays through injuries. He does all of those things.
He does. I still wouldn't trade for him, though. I mean, so I'll approach this from a perspective of somebody that would have been like, oh, you want to send me Amari Cooper? Yeah. I'll wait till you cut him if I'm going to, you know, make an offer, because he was overcoming injuries to stay in the majority of games, but unable to practice during the week, unable to train last off season. I think that's why he's lost steps, and I think he has a collection of injuries that there is a probability that's significant. He's slowing down right now. The injuries are getting the best of him.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think, you know, the $20 million per year with all of that baggage would scare me away from trying to trade. So I do think the Cowboys could have managed it better and maybe got a 3, but I am happy that they got him off their books and were able to get something for it.
You know, it's everything you just said. Actually, I had a discussion with a head coach in the National Football League about this. And he really, maybe he didn't, I don't think he put it as eloquently as you just did, but it was the same premise about, hey, I've got to practice. I've got to have, I'm worried about if he doesn't practice and I try and put him in the game and I'm run a play and it doesn't work because he wasn't practicing the play. Now, right or wrong, that's what coaches believe.
Yeah.
You know, that's the kind of, you know, you could say, well, hell, he doesn't practice at all, but he
knows the playbook.
He knows the playbook. He does it like
for 3 years. Yeah,
he does it like he busts and all that. But that's just the kind of concern that coaches have.
Because there's validity to taking, obviously, being and getting the reps week over week and practice after practice.
Right.
But at some point, you should be able to trust that player, knowing what he's been able to do to understand the offense and then execute, even if he's not practicing. But I understand the perspective of wanting to be out on the field to be able to get those kinds of reps day after day.
Yeah.